Okay, let me dig deeper into a concept of not a concept, a thought that you've just uttered. When you're in corporate, you're less self-aware. What does that mean?
It's the matrix, I guess. It takes over you, you know. So first of all, I do strongly, again, that's my journey,
Yeah,
right? So it
yeah.
might be different for other people. For me, it was at a younger age. And naturally, when you're younger, you're less self-aware. You're more dragged versus driven. So you're being taken from the outside versus inside out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The world is shaping you versus you shaping it inside out. And the corporate world, naturally, as in our generation, historically, we were raised, shaped, okay, you go there, that's what you do.
Conforming.
It's part of the system.
Yes.
And the system is stronger than any person. The system, the environment, the water you bathe in general is just it becomes your reality. And I absolutely, don't get me wrong, I love my times in the corporate world. Those were the days, my friend, it's been a great journey. I've worked with MetLife. Someone once told me it's where you were baked. I guess it was one of the places that professionally, I call it my life university for a long time. So there are good times, but then there are definitely forces stronger than you shaping them, forces shaping you than you shaping them. And I guess it's just the amount of people around you.
Oh.
So when I moved out of the corporate setting, and I was
This is where you had that realization when you moved out.
Definitely.
You saw the kind of contrast, right?
Yes. And I can tell you, the first 2 days after I, finished, resigned, obviously, and started so I was jumping between a very large matrix organization. My transition wasn't immediately from a 50,000 people org to my company. I went through a kind of like a gradual exit, which was, I think, very interesting and healthy. I moved to a smaller global digital health startup to be their managing director here in the region, but way leaner, 80 people globally in the region. I was supposed to be the one, starting the show, so still on my own. But even before I go there were 2 days where, okay, I finally have nothing to do, right? Like just a break, personal break.
Between
jobs. And I'm someone who is almost never doing nothing. I think I have this anxiety of doing nothing. I feel so unproductive. But
productivity complex, huh?
I guess value adding anxiety. I feel every moment passing. Obviously, we will talk about a little bit the importance of resting and prioritizing yourself. But this drive to spend time on earth to optimize value add always gave me this fact that I built my own way around what I define as day of rest or the pleasure of working or work-life balance and all of that, more around adding value versus, okay, it has to be from this day to this day. And, let's talk about it in a minute. But to go back to the idea of, okay, Nancy, now you actually have a bit of time for something. And suddenly, Osama, I promise you, I felt a vacuum. For 2 days, I'm looking around me. Nancy, just go to the beach. You are in Dubai. The beach is awesome. Yes. I remember it was Monday, Tuesday. So no one would be on Kite Beach. That was like one of the best opportunities to
enjoy.
Just go enjoy. I mean, you have time. And it's like suddenly the music stopped.
It's like blues. You were in blue. You were
nothing, like vacuum in my head, because the amount of emails you get in the corporate world, the amount of people that ring on your door every day, that interact with you.
It's validating, isn't it?
It's just it's hustle, it's bustle, you know, like it's no noise, good, bad, it's not the point, but it's something going on in your environment. And by the way, they say biologically we say the biggest purpose of a human is to actually manage their environment, to take control of. We spend all our life trying to take control of our environment, if you think about it, from people to nature to everything around us. So in the modern context of life, that's your environment.
The corporate, the emails, the messages,
and then suddenly
the calls.
Stop, right? So it was interesting observation, but that was just a micro amoeba aspect of you realizing when you exit the big picture on the outside. It took few years, it's been a couple of years now, where you see the world from a different, I like to say it's like I'm standing on a balcony of the matrix, like looking at the matrix from the balcony.
Oh, wow.
Another analogy I like to also, I jump in my head between the two, either being on a balcony or, you have always, when you study chemistry, there is always concentric layers on the atom. When you excite the atom, they go from one to anything concentric. The minute I exited the corporate life and went into my interesting entrepreneurial journey, it was like I was now on a higher level of a concentric circle, and I'm seeing everyone there on that level. A bit similar to the balcony analogy. It's just like
I can completely relate.
And they tell you leave a matrix to another matrix. So now I'm wondering who is looking at me and seeing me on that layer, right?
Probably venture capitalists and investors, right? But
I'm not working with them, bootstrapping all the way, although there was a journey.
They're the ones who are looking at us entrepreneurs and seeing us hustle.
I definitely guess.
No, I can 100%
I absolutely agree with you. If you were a funded business, 100%, because I also work with startups that are funded, and I can see their outer layer, which is the investors. Because at the end of the day, someone is paying you to make them richer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, along the way, you're adding value and you are changing your life, and you're, eventually also hopefully making money with that. But there is an outer layer there. I do wonder what is the outer layer of the bootstrapping. I guess maybe my clients look at me. I don't know, right? Like I would love your thoughts there, because you're also an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I'm
or maybe it's God, right? Like I don't know.
Listen, so there is the how do I say it? So I'm bootstrapping, self-financing as well, 100%. Of course, I hire people here and there. I have my own staff, but everything that I try to do, I try to do it in-house, just to avoid the drama of investments and funding and control and anxiety of, meeting the KPIs and focus on my own purpose. But the point is, who is looking at us? Well, I think it's still investors, because at some point in time we cannot grow at all unless we get certain level of, how do I say it, investments to allow us to grow. And that investment is almost impossible to come from a P&L, because if you have a product, even customers, unless you have a project that a customer is willing to pay you upfront a ridiculous amount of money, which I don't know customers are willing to do that. And even then you have to have, indemnity and like insurance, which is very expensive. But the point is, I think it could be investors. It could be investors, because at a certain point in time, when you grow your own business to a point where you exit a successful, sort of, hundreds of millions of dollars exit, then you yourself become an investor, even if you bootstrapped, which is very unusual and rare. But even if you do, you become an investor. So the outer layer, I think.
I love that you mentioned this because in the past 2 years, since we're continuing the story of the journey, I've been on both paths. And that was another enlightenment that happened on the business, if you want growth, my growth on the business side. And I can tell you that I absolutely did not enjoy the experience of going and pitching to investors and trying to raise money for many reasons. I guess that I had to project and reflect upon after I decided to pause on it. I guess it came to who I am, my nature. Of not enjoying this, because at the end of it, it's still somehow a game of storytelling and FOMO raising, especially in the region. Let's be very transparent about it. And what I realized is that I thrive the most in a completely independent, self-financed, self-run business.
Yeah.
And the minute I jumped there, and I really advise anyone who is today super taken by the FOMO of the world and the zeitgeist that you have to go and raise money.
Yes.
You actually don't have to if that's not your reality. Keep building the business you don't want to leave. You don't want to exit. You don't want to quit.
You don't want to give
Build
control of.
the control, and also build a business that is you. I see sometimes people say business is so difficult and it requires you to have a certain identity and image. And I'm like, yes, but if that business aligns perfectly with your message, if it's who you are and what you want to do for the rest of your life, you will have to work no day on your identity, on thinking of an exit, on anything beyond being focused on the people you're serving. And because for a long time I have been adding and creating of course with people in mind, but also to fit in the narrative of an investor pleasing company, I felt that was not that was neither on the inside the right feeling I wanted to have as an entrepreneur, nor was it what helped me progress in the right direction. The minute I left that externally driven motivation, if you want, I found my way. And so
the mindset change, wasn't it?
It was
a different way of looking
it was
at
actually
it.
hitting a rock bottom to begin with, until what they tell you, the view at the bottom is the best. And then you find your way up with nothing anymore but what you have for yourself. And that's when you learn to listen to yourself and minimize the external noise. And that's when you start living.
That's very powerful, Nancy. I think if I reflect on that for a moment, one thing that resonates with me a lot is the independence of anything, not just investors, primarily investors, because that is extremely driving you to different directions away from you as an entrepreneur, but also it just skews or changes the way you design your own path. Because now you're not designing it for you or your own purpose, you're designing it for someone else's. And that someone else's don't care about what you achieve. No. They care about how much they're gonna profit out of what you achieve. And that could be disorienting a lot.
Yes.
So the reflection is, I want to build something so big, so valuable, so attractive that they come and beg me, so to speak, obviously, to partner. If that makes sense. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time.
That's
and by
the
the
way to go.
And by the way, if you read any of so this is a book called The Secrets of Sand Hill Road and others that I 100% recommend any entrepreneur must read.
Awesome.
In addition to multiple other venture capitalist books that are written by veteran venture capitalists. They themselves tell you, please,
Don't come to us.
don't come to us. We will find you.
Yes. Thank you.
Imagine that.
Thank you. And I am glad because every time big cultural waves take place, which is what happened in the past 15 years post tech explosion and the Facebook era and beyond, Silicon Valley and the zeitgeist of all of the investment happening on technology, the bubble clearly, and then the recent events and the crash of this bubble and the reduction of the funds. And I do definitely hope and think we are now with that. Now everyone that was praising you having to raise capital in order to be a successful person, raising more and more the idea that you actually need to go and create a business and be profitable, right? So profit versus scale and going big and breaking things and whatnot. And again, I don't think there's right and wrong. First of all, there's right for a person, wrong for a person. So it's all about who you are, what your pace is. If you're not a person who likes to grow a performance business that grows, I don't know, 300% per year, or if it's not your vision, or maybe you get there but not today, right? Or you're envisioning a different lifestyle to you to begin with, because if it's sustainable, it has to be a lifestyle that you like. Two, you mentioned something very important. Sometimes in the early stages, you're just experimenting to learn what fits, what people need. And you need that space of experimentation versus someone being at your door every quarter and asking you, how much did you make money? Which will distract you from actually truly listening to it. And the third and most important aspect is, if you're not building for the people, for the consumer,
for your customers,
you're actually not doing it right. And to build for your customer, you need a beautiful zone of innovation. You need that space where you're allowed to break things and do it.
You need mental clarity, right?
Mental clarity, and it also comes, this clarity, I guess, comes when you're not pressured.
Yes.
In the past 10 months, I've been, so I started MHW, our health and wellness consultancy, after years, obviously, of, it just came as a response of now people, reaching to us and saying, okay, Nancy, we need to work with you. And then I'm taking projects here and then giving them to other people. I'm like, what am I doing, right? Because that's my mission from day one. So let's grow further into this direction. We're going to talk a little bit about this. But in the past 10 months, all I'm doing is actually, as I service and we deliver, I'm also listening. And you would be surprised that most of the time, the best solutions are coming from intertwining my inner motivation and message to the world with the customer needs and feedback. So it's like, what you want to give to the world, but the more you walk, as they say, on the path, and the more you talk to people, the more you give them something and you start seeing, yes, this is it. It's shaping. It's like the baby is coming to life. And so that room, unfortunately, is not a place to be, the best place to be pressured or being given money that you have to bring back quickly or whatnot. And even after that, go and make money. Just make your own. Make profit. Enjoy the idea of, because if you're really building value, someone will pay for it.
Correct.
And that's how you know that you're on the right path.
100%. If someone is willing to actually compensate you for something.
Yes.
Because they're not paying you for your value. They're paying you for the belief that the value that you're offering will change their state. And so they're actually paying for the change of their
You're
own
offering
state.
a perceived value, whether time, whether making people more successful. It depends everyone on their business. Now, you mentioned something. Would one day maybe I would not sell my companies? I probably could, right? But start beginning with the idea of it has to be funded to be grown and sold was not my pleasure in business. And I'm not in business to do this, let alone that I don't even like to call what I do business. I feel it robs it from its more philosophical value and why I think every business or every government or every effort on earth should exist, which is to add, to elevate, if you want, the score of well-being of people. Your business, yes, obviously, commercially, like just to be practical in the world, we call it business, right?
Yeah.
It's profit-making entity, so it's a business. But if it's not elevating the well-being of society, it's not a sustainable business, right? So I like to, I don't know, I mean, I call it a company, organization, call it whatever, but it's like, it's your message to the world that you productize in a world accepted entity called company. If it's not that, really don't waste your time, because money for, business for the sake of business and just money, at least it's not part of my values or why I'm here. It's I'm always asked, like, why entrepreneurship? And I always say it's to deliver something that I believe should be created, and that would elevate the well-being of society.
Why? Why is it important to you?
Okay, great question. So first of all, adding value to people before I maybe talk about our business specifically, is a core human value to feel achieved and live well. It's living a life of purpose. The more we dig into, the science of well-being, but also for thousands of years before us, philosophers and meditators also understood this reality. It's purpose. It's living with purpose and enjoying a life beyond yourself, beyond the personal pleasures of it. Why MHW? Why Cluely that I founded? I'm on a mission to elevate the knowledge of people, to allow them to live in an increased level of well-being around mainly three areas that I significantly believe that change your life and transform you to live, to really fulfill your message in the world and live happy. One, your physical health. Two, being able to live, go back to yourself, find your purpose and live it. And three, your relations.
Okay. So health, purpose, relationships.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you think about it, Osama, everything in our life, every pain begins with ignorance, and every sense of well-being begins with knowledge. If you can develop and self-develop.
Let me think that a bit. So every pain starts with begins with knowledge, with ignorance, and every well-being begins with knowledge.
Yes.
This is powerful.
I'll give you a few examples. Yeah. So our body today, which is the effort of thousands, actually billions of years of wisdom of nature. You and I, just us sitting here and talking, which we take very much for granted, is the wisdom of nature for billions of years. Maybe nature doesn't define it in years, obviously. Time construct is something we humans perceive, but it's energy that was put for time and it's a lot of energy that was put in us as a body. So your body is a universe. It's a miracle. Your body is a universe on its own. As a biologist who have dealt for years in the and really understanding the micro aspect of how each and every final outcome you see, whether that your ability to see right now or to hear, or this complex process that takes place for a thought to be created and articulated. Very simple, examples. Those are miracles that happen. There's like a machinery orchestrated inside of you. A molecule goes in, your cell door closes, a molecule binds onto another one in your blood. Your blood has a certain power and stream to be able to go in a certain way. When you look at the fascinating micro level of our body, it's a miracle, and it's a lot of knowledge to be acquired to know what your body needs, what it is about, to actually respect it, honor it, and allow it to be your vector and temple of your soul to achieve your mission in this world. Okay? So we know that if your body is not thriving, you can't do anything in life. And if you don't know how to take care of it, health is your biggest wealth, right? So I believe, for years and thousands of years, have known a lot of things about health. Arabs were one of the earliest knowledge seekers and developers when it comes to medicine and the science of the body. The difference of what we're seeing today is that we simply have more tools. So after the scientific revolution, starting, in the 16th century, 17th century, we started digging more into, we understood in the past 200 years specifically that we don't know anything. We began this journey of, okay, we're ignorant, where do we go from here, right? We can't keep relying on mythology and powers here and there to explain our world. So when we started digging, we now have a wealth of knowledge, and I assure you, we don't know 1% of our body still, but at least we have more concrete knowledge at our hand. And now if you notice, it's accelerating exponentially in the past few years due to technology, due to ability to go deeper, study on a much microscopic level. AI now is catapulting this growth. And so that's the knowledge we need to actually thrive on a body level. Okay, so that's one. Two, how you find your purpose, how you live it, and how you execute on it, which you are doing today as you and I sit together. Have you not learned how to run a podcast? And I'm sure a lot of work went there. Okay, you wouldn't be able today to even create this network, Osama, that you're building, that you and I, spoke about. But even before that happened, there was so much self-development that you probably worked on. Want to know what you want to do in life.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with going back to yourself. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools, by the way, to do that. But also a lot of readings, a lot of talking to people, a lot of exploration, testing, and learning. So the methodology, if you want to find your purpose, and then learn the skills and knowledge to execute on it. So that's number two. And number three, I just mentioned people. So people in business, people in your personal life, friends, partners, romantic, family, who can thrive alone. I mean, the most miserable people are the lonely people.
Yeah.
And today we have a loneliness epidemic, as you very well know, especially in the West world. I'm very glad that, yes, in this region, maybe in the UAE, sometimes if you're an expat without a good support system, yes, there is that. If you have, I feel personally lucky that I have a lot of people here. But network, bonding, relations, it's one of the biggest studies by Harvard, University, shown for the past 70 years that it's your utmost, most important factor for well-being and health equally. It's like upstream to your physical health. So these three aspects, how can you even get to a place in life where you feel you're thriving, you're adding value to others, if you can't master them. Do we master them in our first 18 years? No, simply because so far that's how the system has been. You learn other things. Does this need to be shaped? Yes, but I'm not here to talk about it. I do think, though, even if your first 18 years were shaped differently in education, traditional education system, you still need, you're living today till 90 and 80, inshallah, even 200. And you need to keep self-developing irrespective. And every stage of your life requires something different. Maybe tomorrow you have kids, so you need to nurture yourself to learn how to nurture your kids, right?
Yeah.
So that's a new knowledge that you didn't need when you were 25, when you were more focused on your career and purpose. So that knowledge is everything. And what I realize is that today there's so much noise. And so much noise, one in the field of science, two in the field what you should do in life and how you should live your life and all of this. And there's a lot of, you feel people are confused. There is noise, but there is no trend or wisdom. Give me the gist of it, okay? Obviously, the gist of it comes from a lot of insight into a space. I'm gonna give you an example, okay? If you wanna learn about, very simple example I always like to tell about. Today, the aesthetic field is like the taking care of yourself is becoming very big, especially for women, but also for men. Now, a woman today, if she's on her social media, and I always like to give a bit of this extreme example because this is health and wellness, right? Because waking up every day, looking at your mirror, feeling good is a core aspect. Your appearance is a core aspect also of your well-being. So maybe we're not talking, we can give an example of actual like more medical aspect. But I promise you, Osama, if you go today and try to find what is something good to take care of your skin as a person, you will be confused like there is no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you will be more so confused if you don't have the basics of medical knowledge. Right. Increasingly, we will be overwhelmed with information and underwhelmed with insight and wisdom, because it's just too much, especially with AI now. Everyone is just creating something. The biggest skill for us to have in the future is your analytical ability to digest and create a sense out of this information.
Critical thinking, right?
Critical thinking.
Yeah.
And critical thinking does not come if you don't have the basic knowledge in the basic topics like economics, biology, science like physics, math, the basic knowledge. Today, if you tell me something, and because I'm a biologist, I can tell you in health if it sounds right or wrong. If it's legit that I would dig deeper in it or not.
You'll be able to ask the right questions.
Right. You will be able to feel you're not disoriented.
Yes.
Or because someone can tell you something today, you don't know if you believe it or not. And who do you ask? Okay, ChatGPT, fine. But if you're not having it inside, so that's why I always go back to the basics. As someone who has done the micro and the macro kind of knowledge, this is where, so with Cluely, what we're doing today, this is where the idea is to bring the most insightful knowledge to people in the most simplistic way, but also with the why of the biology behind it, the why of the health aspect behind it.
To empower.
Yes,
people.
with simple for layperson, but also, I'll give you an example. If I tell you, Osama, after 7, it's not good to eat. You probably heard it since growing up. Don't eat at night or eat early before bed. And today, someone on the internet tells you this, another tells you no, eat whenever you want. Okay. The minute I tell you why, it will make sense to you. You know why? They told you don't eat after 7.
I heard that the kind of the digestive system and the blood and the rejuvenation of the brain and how the body is busy with, instead of relaxing and rejuvenate. I'm not a biologist, so I'm just
the point was not to test it. It was like a rhetorical question because, right? Like, okay, it's not about
I'm trying to keep myself aware and updated. So I keep on listening and hearing. And, I also test on myself. So I try one day to eat at night and then see consciously how I feel the next morning, not just the morning, the next day. And especially when it comes to mental and cognitive ability and comprehension and output and also absorbing of certain ideas. The next day, I don't eat. I sleep on an empty stomach, and then I see how I wake up in the morning, and then and then do my own sort of research.
No, absolutely, and you're on the right path because that's how I go back to my point, right? If you're not growing this core knowledge for your life, then how can you sustain? But back to our point. So a very, very simple fact: the minute you know it, the way of you looking at food at night will be different. So basically, one of the core aspects, you mentioned the digestive system, of course, one of them as well. But it all has to do with your circadian rhythm and the light outside. It's known that the minute your melatonin starts going up, your insulin goes down, right? So your ability to now
the sleep hormone, right? Melatonin.
So your ability to now digest food and burn it is now lower. Okay.
So food stays in the stomach for longer.
It just gets metabolized differently and less optimally than when it's sun outside. It's just a simple fact, okay? And imagine all the other facts that we can explain to people so that they, in and out, on and on, almost everything around you makes much more sense. I'm gonna give you.
But that's the point. The point is, even if that's the case, and we all now are able to, as you said, access to information and knowledge is now democratized like crazy. So I heard this, obviously, but then again, I'm not a biologist. I'm as far from the medical industry as anyone could be. In my mind, I'm like, okay, what's melatonin? I mean, I know it's this, but you're telling me that melatonin does this, sugar does that. And I think my mind goes into, and maybe because I'm an engineer, I like to look at things as systematized and structured in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if this, then that, and then also I'm a developer, so I'm like, okay, I develop my own.
Wise.
Exactly. I put a hypothesis, and I say, okay, let me try and test it. Don't tell me. Give me what is it that I need to do, the methodology. Give me the different potential scenarios as an outcome, the hypotheses, plural, and then let me figure out what is and tell me, how do I know if I succeeded or not? Because the point is, if I'm in pain, but I don't know a life without pain, I'm normalized with pain. So I'm thinking this is how life is. But then when I feel life without migraine, for example, because of a pill that I've never been able to even know about its existence, but I know that it exists, even if I didn't taste it or even if I didn't feel it, but someone told me, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. Go and test. And then I go and test and then see for myself the feeling of that different reality that I'm building for myself. I think that's a better prospect than, Andrew Huberman said this or Jordan Peterson said that. You know what I mean? Like it's test. Tell me what to do. Give me what is it that I should expect. Give me the tools that I need to use. Give me a recommendation. Tell me, you know what? I'm the expert. Obviously, there are experts, and then test.
Absolutely spot on. So this is so we were talking about knowledge. Because no action begins without knowledge, but also there are the tools. Okay, so it has to be knowledge coupled with tools. If I don't give you the why, the tools, your brain will not find a legitimate, easy way to go and leverage them. But if I give you the knowledge without the tools, then also I'm confusing you with, okay, what's next? So
Yeah.
what do I do with it?
So
Which
what?
is your
Yeah,
comment.
yeah.
Beautiful complementation of the two.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it up. So that's why when I speak of knowledge, it's more of an idea of programs where we offer you the so-called lecture in the sense of, okay, that's okay, you listened, okay, this is how it works, but also supported by tools so that you know how to take it into action.
Yes.
And how to, I mean, it's just the idea of facilitating it for you. Actually, 90% of the results lie in the execution, right?
Yeah.
But the execution without a framework of why in your head also lacks context.
Absolutely. I love the framework of what, why, and how, right? So what is it that we're trying to achieve?
Why
what is it important? So there is, exactly. So Simon Sinek says, start with why.
He changed our life. I love her.
I have the book. I listen to him, but I disagree with him.
You still think it should be what? Why?
It has to be what, because if I don't know, because it's about knowing what to know, right? Because if you don't know what you're looking for, then anything will lead you there, right? It's just the what, it's the definition, it's the operationalization, it's the bringing meaning to something. When I say meaning, I don't mean from a purpose perspective. I mean from the meaning. When I hear someone talk about the mitochondria, for example, right? Okay, it's the little, factory in your cell that just, whatever, right? Okay, what is it? Like, what is it in my, so the what, but then, okay, so why should I care? The why then becomes relevant after the what, because if I don't know, like you said, if I don't know, the why for me is but then once the what and the why is solid. Now, obviously, which one is which first? It's contextual. It's not like a carved in stone. Then, to your point, the how becomes relevant, right? Because now I want to know how to do it and achieve that what because of the why, right? But here's the thought. So yesterday, me and my wife were, we went to watch a movie in the shop in one of the malls, and that was the biggest mistake of our lives. We never do that, especially in the weekend, and it was like
Which
crazy.
Movie did you see?
Smile 2. I don't know if you've seen it.
I rarely go to the movies, by the way. This is
the first time since like forever. But the point is, I mean, it's good to kind of try something and see what the world is doing, in different arenas. But the point, and I love doing this because I'm a big observer. So I go to places, I do things that I don't enjoy or I don't want to do, but I have to do them because if I want to be someone who can give advice or coach or kind of mentor someone, at least I need to try what they're doing to the limits of it won't affect me negatively, right?
Absolutely.
My observations were over the I mean, it turned out to be a mini research of collecting data. I yearned, I longed, I actually looked for someone who looks healthy, if that makes sense.
In the movies?
In the shopping mall. While I was walking, because it's an evening of a weekend, it was just, I don't know when this will be released, but it was Saturday evening, right, in Dubai, in a shopping mall. It was around 8:00, so the peak hour of kind of people being packed into these closed areas. But the point is, while I was walking, I'm just observing the surrounding around me, and I'm longing for someone who looks healthy, if that makes sense. It's like stand up straight, shoulders back and down, kind of. I'm not looking for models. I'm not looking for bodybuilders,
fitness,
right?
More fitness.
I'm looking for someone who radiates health. And that was almost not to be found. Now, obviously, the timing is clear. Obviously, on a weekend, people like this don't go into shopping malls at this point in time. I think, because I don't go there, and I consider myself kind of aware from that type of perspective. So my question to you, Nancy, is if it's so clear, everybody's talking about it. So the what is, I mean, no one will dispute. if the why, and it's very important, is very clear.
Why are we here? Brilliant transition, if you want to, where I wanted to, you asked me initially why. So there is the aspect of knowledge that it's really the idea of raising the consciousness of the world. Because for a long time now, we have been numbed down in our ability to listen to ourselves, to live in tune with nature, and to really thrive as organic, natural, biological species versus, just our self-perception that we are here and the world is around us versus we are the world itself. We are what nature put on this world to do something. I don't know exactly what it is, right? But we know that there is something. And we are the center of it. Not you are the center of it. Everyone in their own way has a message coded in them, the center of it. I really strongly believe, Osama, in the past 50 years in particular, started obviously 200 years ago with the Industrial Revolution, Scientific Revolution, all of this. And with the capitalism, we got, people in general have become reactive, dragged to life, dragged into what they eat, dragged into what they think. Everything around you is neuromarketing. From the minute you wake up to the world, including the milk you drink, including the schooling system that is breeding you to go in a path versus another, including what your parents tell you, including today what I'm seeing, the alpha generation, if you want, that, I have also I have two nephews, obviously a huge generation beyond them, but the things they watch, the YouTube, the exposure of this junk that is, I like to give it the analogy of a wardrobe being thrown on you. Okay? We have people today, and I do strongly believe we are at an interesting inflection point. And that's why we want to be part of this shifting the aspect of elevating the consciousness of people. And I largely think social media has to do with it. It's like the most double-edged sword. With it, you can create noise. With it, you can create wisdom. But I really feel we have not been living mindfully. Food is one of the big aspects of how we got, first, the neuromarketing, and two, the design of the food in a way to make it feel
addictive,
very addictive to what we now understand about our brain, which is the dopamine aspect of it and the gratification. And then you understood that, and technology leveraged it with the instant gratification on social media. And then obviously more and more powers and the bad powers, if you want, the evil of the world will come and say, okay, we know this reality
the
about
capitalists,
humans,
right? The ones that are purely for profit, irrespective of...
Yes, the negative capitalism, right? The greedy one.
The unethical
because
one.
I don't like to, I still love to keep the idea that money is good, wealth is good when you leverage it
there's a difference between free market and then pure capitalism. Because pure capitalism is the aim, the goal, the
money
purpose
for money.
is just exactly. But free market is free market. I mean, we're not saying someone has to control. No. It's just that if ethics is not removed, then things will be okay. The problem with probably pure concept of capitalism is profit, EBITDA, right?
Yes,
you always hear EBITDA, fiscal. I mean, it's just crazy.
I hate those words.
Obviously, you have the
I mean, I love when money comes and we can put more into what we do, but yes, back to that.
So that's sort of the neuro design of how we can maximize profit through capitalizing on those sort of hedonic,
Yes.
instant gratification elements, and studying how can we maximize leverage on those elements.
Yes.
And this is where people. So okay, let me ask you this question, and this is a shifting of gears to corporates, right? What is the, dare I say, responsibility of corporates to counter that?
You're shifting, for me, the topics where I wanted to go next. Okay, so another big aspect of what we do, and I've done this for years within, inside of other organizations, and now directly with MHW. So also working with organizations for me, the way I look at employers and corporations are as a scale vector for that change to be accelerated from few aspects. One, when you are implementing something correctly and accurately within a scope of an organization.
You mean not just a tick in the box?
Not a gimmick, not a tick in box. Thank you, Osama. You are actually influencing thousands of people potentially versus one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
So today, if you implement, I don't know, like whatever solution it is, whether it's education, coaching, or any positive behavior changing implementation, you're impacting a lot of people. One. Number two, funds. As a richer entity, as a corporation, just like
with more resources.
Yeah. As you covered for people the health insurance, which was the sick care, you have also this power to cover for people aspects of their well-being.
I love that.
Whether benefits, whether solutions. And the third one, let alone that you as an entity called corporation, the workplace, inside of you, there is a workplace-driven stress and illness. Okay?
The mental stuff, the psychological.
Mental, and also sometimes maybe you, and I don't think about it, but like from a blue-collar perspective or like, so there is the health, safety and other stuff. But also obviously from like white-collar perspective, it's stress. It's also a lot of times going into an office that has a very bad air quality that allows you to get sick.
The lighting is just
lighting. Maybe you walk in and there's a vending machine. The first thing you see full of chocolate instead of a healthy pantry and healthy cafeteria. So the environment of the workplace, because you spend there a lot of time, because it's a huge chunk of your life, even if you're working remotely, it remains an element of people to people, right? So then we talk about the stress aspect and training people. So these three factors, scale, funds, and impact of workplace directly on your personal wellness, make corporations one of the most powerful places to impact public health and human well-being to begin with. And as a public health professional, in public health, the core science of public health, or the scope of public health, is population-wide. It's not compared to the clinical. This is where I go back to your engineering background. So a doctor works a one-on-one. It's clinical.
Correct.
A psychologist is a one-on-one. It's clinical. A public health professional, their job is to maximize impact on a population health level. That's why we call it population
monitor their
health
data
management.
and readings across a wide segment of people and then act accordingly.
100%. So it has a lot of economics. It has a lot of marketing. It has a lot of things. Now, here's where I always reach this is where also we're shifting things from a business perspective. So we are now, this is the most unprecedented time for organizations to face this new reality called you need to take care of the people in your company. Okay, if you look at a search on Google, a trend search in the past 10 years, 2013 to 2023, of the word workplace wellness, the trend is just upward in a crazy manner. So the past 10 years, there has been a very large explosion of that. Now, clearly for many reasons, Some is self, if you want, driven, which is okay, saving cost of healthcare and optimizing, productivity and reducing absenteeism, presenteeism, and all of that thing, all those things you see in the, and that's definitely
in the mass media, right?
In the mass, right? In the mass communication of the why of corporate wellness.
Yes.
I like to scratch the surface beyond that, because I as I told you, in my anything we do is always looking at, okay, what's in it for people?
Yeah.
Because once you impact people bottom up, organizations immediately win. So if a person, if a company we work with come and ask us, what's your value to us? Of course, the value to you is saving money, improving your work environment, attracting more people, becoming the coolest place to walk into. Now, the why behind it, if you want the how you really get there, not the why, how you get it.
Yes.
There is no way for you to bypass being people-centric. Because if you implement something that people don't see value in, don't even meddle or dream of an outcome on your business level, okay? Now, here's where the biggest shift now is happening, and we're now, we want to make it happen actually at MHW, is as a company, you are technically becoming like a public health department if you're telling me I want to influence the public health of people.
Yes.
Right? What's the difference between a company that has 5,000 people or 2,000 or 100, doesn't matter, and a public health, like a New York State public health department on New York level?
Yes.
Technically nothing. It's just a different
scale,
way of
that's
structuring it, right? One is private, the other is government.
Yeah.
Now, imagine the amount of knowledge and know-how you need to be able to actually structure a truly impactful solution, a set of solutions, a strategy to actually execute on, just like you do a business strategy to people, to companies, okay? It's exactly the same. And suddenly, companies found themselves in the middle of this without having any idea of, they don't have the know-how. You don't have a chief wellness. You don't have, we're giving it sometimes to HR, to an HR executive. That's why
doesn't work.
You see, that's why now actually, it's actually hurting the space so much. I hear people, we don't want to hear another wellness initiative. The word initiative drives me. It's like my pet peeve. Like, what do you mean initiative? The word initiative, let's change it to begin with. The minute you change your word, you change your world.
Yeah.
As long as we call it wellness initiative, it means we're not thinking at it strategically. With a KPI and a strategy on which we execute. If you want to keep doing it this way, let me tell you what the outcome is. You can. Nobody, if you want to live unhealthy, as an example, you can. If you want, you can. Everything. But here's the result. On the company level, you have 3 revolutions facing you. The first one, it's called entrepreneurship revolution. The barrier to enter and become an entrepreneur is becoming very, very low, so easier. So the top talent are now much more, it's more optimal for them to leave. Okay, so you are at a high risk of churning top talent.
So your talent, you're skilled, probably will go, and entrepreneurship
absolutely.
is...
Can't you see this happening anyway to begin with?
And you're skilled, because they're skilled and competent, probably they'll figure out how to 100%. Open their own thing and compete with you. Okay.
And by the way, here's the thing. You tell me, okay, let the world do that. Yeah, let the world do that. But we both know that not everyone is born an entrepreneur. We both know that the road is difficult. So there is value in actually keeping people in systems and organizations.
So even if they're not able to do entrepreneurship, you're losing them anyway.
Right. You're checking them out. Thank you. So even if they're there, not into... I hear a lot of people tell me, I am not made for this jump, right?
Yes.
But they're there and not happy.
Yes.
Or those made for the jump end up jumping, but they also struggle and suffer. So there is great value in actually realizing that you can actually keep shape society in a way where not everyone is on their own, because we thrive also in
Groups.
networks,
Yes.
right? And think of like when you were maybe in a bigger company, like your well-being was positively influenced by
Yes.
all these outings you had, the people you met on your path, right?
100%.
Like beautiful.
The good mornings that you have to say for probably 50 people just before 10 o'clock, you know, it's different. When you're an entrepreneur, you probably say
you talk to yourself. And to some
true.
people who work with you.
That's true, or to the camera. So it's just crazy. Yeah, 100%.
So there is a huge value in actually keeping the smart people thriving with you. Okay, so that's one. Number two, the AI revolution is now, I'm not talking about it from, making people obsolete and whatnot. I'm leaving this, let's put it aside. But it's all about, if you and I have the same AI, what differentiates you? It's the people element.
True, the creative agency. Yes.
And the social element is all about the creativity of people.
Yes.
It's about them feeling thriving. It's about having good, for example, sales skills that, what they will then differentiate two companies who can have the same technology. It's the people. Okay, so that's two. And number three, there's a huge wellness and longevity revolution taking place and will accelerate exponentially.
And you'll be caught
forward.
Too late.
If you are not part of this revolution, another company will be, or another entity will be. And trust me, augmenting people will take over your space. So if you are not investing in it, you are going to end up with people who are lethargic, unhealthy, versus another entity. And here, we're playing a little bit with the competitiveness and the FOMO, but that's what business is about.
Why
right?
not? Yeah. Competition is a healthy competition is a good way to achieve results.
Another entity will actually be having maybe people with, waking up every day, having access to IV drips, living in having access to solutions that elevate their consciousness, having meditation power, right? So imagine these two environments, how different.
Bionic human beings versus traditional human beings,
So those three factors are why the past 10 years can be like the next 10 years for organizations. How now it's all about working with the expert.
So let me unpack one thing, because you mentioned earlier the three things. One of them was funding, and it caught my attention that you said companies are spending fortunes on health insurance and healthcare. Imagine if they spend a fraction of that on not just prevention and awareness, but also other, public healthcare experts and
access
strategic.
To resources.
And the point is, I think the key that you mentioned here is the difference in an initiative. Something that the I don't know the thing this month
what's
or
the
this
Oxford
week.
definition of initiative? It's something that happens ad hoc, right?
Yes, it's just like that. It's just it's just
goodwill,
an idea, but it's not strategic. It doesn't align perfectly with like a goal that you have to. It's not probably. Maybe it's sustainable. Maybe it's not. But the point is, it is something that is not core and center to everything you do, as opposed to a strategic. Like for example, healthcare insurance. Typically, it's strategic now, probably for governance, probably for adherence to certain laws and regulations. Exactly, it's mandatory. Maybe it's not. But the point is, you need it because if someone is ill, you need him to be back on track as soon as possible. You don't want him to be sick for 2 weeks. You want him to be sick probably for 2-3 days and then come back and continue being productive. How about if we do it the other way? And that's a powerful thought. It's still an investment, but one, you're investing reactively. The other is you're investing proactively and preemptively.
So this is, Osama, where I will drop the last point. I keep it always for the end. Maybe I should start beginning with it when I'm asked about this. It's the philosophical aspect of what you do as an organization to your community. Typically in our world, it's called CSR. I like to think of it in a bit more philosophical
That's
way.
very marketing CSR.
I don't like these like buzzwords, but again, I mean, this is what's commonly known as. But really, what's your corporate social responsibility if we have to articulate it? What are you giving back to people collectively as an entity that has people waking up every day, coming to your office and helping you build something to the world? Okay. And if I think of, at the end of the day, an entity is a virtual reality, right? So who are these people I'm addressing now as I speak? It's people at the top, mostly the investors in these companies, even in the public space, shareholders.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you go back to the less skewed version of capitalism and a redistribution of wealth in a fairer way. What does it mean? It means you put a bit of what you make, you are willing to take a smaller hit on your profit to actually redistribute wealth for value.
Yeah.
Because we all know that this extremely skewed capitalism is not sustainable. Okay. It's putting the 99% or 80% of wealth in the pocket of the fewer, but then you're hurting everyone else. So
why do I care if I'm at the top? I'm benefiting.
Because here I'm not talking about it from a social welfare perspective. I'm talking about it for the population of the people serving your business. So you care about it because if you keep being greedy and not invest more in people, it's going to affect your business.
But what about taking personal responsibilities? Why do I have to care for the 1,000 people? Let them care for themselves.
Because you have more resources. And
like
I'm not saying, by the way, nothing in what we spoke about mentioned that the person doesn't have to do work at all. No, it's an effort. We're gonna talk about what people have to do to actually get there. But we're here talking about the role of corporations, right? Yes. As far as that is concerned, it's about resources.
So I'll tell you, this is my thinking process, right? And especially it's very localized and relevant to our region here, particularly the GCC. The GCC's makeup of the workforce is predominantly expats, people who are coming, leaving their hometowns, leaving their countries, in search of a better lifestyle, of a better, just a quick quality of life, right? So we come here, and obviously this is a land of opportunities. Realistically, it's very safe. You're good, you're talented, you will find an opportunity. It's mostly merit based. So if you're good, you will get rewarded, obviously. It's a free market and all that good stuff. However, if I'm an employee in an organization, I have a good salary, I have a good health insurance, I have access to loans, I have a couple of cars, I have 5 years loans on these cars, I have an apartment or a house. So I have a beautiful golden handcuffs. Now, I have KPIs and I have to deliver according to these KPIs in the organization. But then the organization, because of me working in spite of and despite of the lack of a good culture, a good well-being system in the organization, I'm still performing because of that, because I don't have any other option. Not that the company or the country did that to me. I'm doing that to myself because of how the system, like I said, systems are bigger than individuals. So the system here is, with all the good intentions in the world, has been designed for that, but then people are getting sucked into that. So I'm sitting at the top. I'm a shareholder, I'm an investor, I'm an owner, I'm a CEO. I'm looking at my numbers, I'm an Excel sheets guy, so I look at all these dashboards and I'm having a double-digit growth. So every year I'm growing, people are performing, KPIs are being met, customers are happy. So everything is going in the right direction.
Because it's not sustainable. It's all about thinking a bit beyond beyond next week and next month. And that's why it requires knowing two things. It requires knowing that it's not sustainable. So from a selfish, let's say, perspective, as a resource owner at the top, something will crack at some point, okay? And waves will take you, so better be proactive than a dinosaur. So that's one. Two, there is also this elevated consciousness that I keep speaking about.
Yeah.
At the top, that's what we call leadership.
True leadership, yes.
If you have that, you are a true leader. We always bank on the idea that there are true leaders, and we're just here to help them.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there is also another very important wave we did not necessarily speak about, but it's at the core of all these risks that we spoke about. Whether it's people leaving to entrepreneurship, whether us like creating more and more automation and efficiency tools like AI, whether it's the wellness revolution that we spoke about, the 3 big risks of why you should take a step forward to improve the next 10 years versus just being gimmicky. At the bottom of all of this, I have been, I strongly believe, and I witnessed this again, I guess, through a lot of observations in the field of well-being over the years, we are in the midst of a mindset revolution. And I like to say always, because revolutions come bottom up, at some point, people are not going to accept this. You're going to left with mediocrity. There is a revolution mindset in terms of my wellness. There's a revolution mindset in terms of, for example, how much time I spend working if I don't like. There's a revolution mindset around living with purpose. So if your organization doesn't align with my values, more and more people are looking even for a less salary at the expense of living with purpose with a company.
100%. And Gen Z is notorious for this.
Absolutely. So there is this shift from accepting what gets thrown on me as an individual, and I guess also COVID accelerated this exponentially when we sat and assessed what life is about, to actually saying, I should live more mindfully. Is everyone doing that? No. But more and more we will see it.
Yeah. It's a wave coming,
It's a wave. We are in the midst of, it's just the beginning of it. You're seeing it. You're right. It's like, it's almost gonna take place. It's inevitable. And this is where I kind of wrap up on what we're doing here, right? So riding this wave and increasing it for people from a consciousness and awareness perspective to ensure that the more educated don't get, to ensure kind of like survival of more people. It's like fitness, right? Like survival of the fittest at the end of it. What does it mean in our new world? It's having more resources and knowledge or understanding them better. Okay? So when you democratize this important knowledge to more and more people, you allow more and more people to, from a Darwinist perspective,
it's
to keep going.
The evolution will keep on happening.
Yes, to continue surviving.
Yes.
One. And two, from a corporation perspective, it's like, okay, I'm putting my hands in the hands of these entities that have, I think of them as a partner.
Yes, it is
on this journey of wellness.
100%.
We personally as a leader in the space, I see it that it helps the mission of helping more people.
Yeah.
And from their perspective as a business, it improves their business.
100%. 100%. Here's a thought, Nancy. So when it comes to, so let's say now a leader understands all of that. He gets it. He's full on. He tries, but like you said, big pharma, big corporates are playing this neuro games of, tapping into the dopamine rushes of people and, selling them all sorts of donuts and sugary stuff and, TikTok and YouTube and just, and I don't know what to do. Like, I know, like we've done everything, but still people are falling back because the system is too big even for a corporate. So one thing I used to do is actually put part of the KPIs of the individuals, fitness goals that is related to not just numbers, so weight and stuff, that's irrelevant. Actually, ability to do certain functional fitness elements. So for example, carrying your own weight, doing a pull-up or doing a push-up or doing some sort of either resistance
like regimen,
or whatever. So, and you are actually using, so they are using entities such as you to come and, how do I say it? Shape it and inspect it also. So the KPI is audited by, so if you, and the higher you are in the organization, the more fit you should be in reality.
Oh, absolutely.
And put it as a KPI in addition to your commercial KPIs, operational KPIs, development KPIs, also well-being and performance, physical performance KPIs. Why don't people do it?
I'm smiling because you hit it very well from, I'll tell you why so far not.
Yes.
And that's
what's stopping them? Let's put it that way.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing will stop them, except that it's just a matter of time.
Priorities.
We are very early in this short process compared to our history of how we deal, of our industrial history, so corporations, of how the 20th century was all about reactive care. Now we are jumping into, but we're still not even on the 25% of the 21st century, right?
Yeah.
So it's only been 10 years. And that's why I like to say the first 10 years, what got us here won't get us there. Will not be like the next 10 years as we progress, okay? Or should not be like the 10 years. And those who ride this wave will be the ones who win. But that's the I look at you and you're smiling and you're like, but who's gotta begin? There are always people who begin. And that's why I put my hands with the early adopters and the leaders of the world.
100%,
no one ever changed the world by being a cynical. Okay?
Yes.
So there are...
But tell that to the cynicals, right?
I actually don't bother with them. You have no idea.
I like that.
It's a waste of energy until they see it.
Yeah.
Of course, I say it with empathy, not like... But I don't have time for the cynical. I mean, cynicism is good. I like it because it always makes the optimist assess. It's always good to have these two opposing powers in life.
The contrast is
yes,
good.
I love it because I'm an eternal optimist, and sometimes people come at me with cynicism, and it makes me reshape the way I say things so that it fits what
a wider audience.
Yes, or I articulate it differently, or we try something different from an implementation perspective so that what this perspective actually was legit about, we embed it, right?
True.
So it's healthy, but I don't focus on it. I don't think any innovator ever focused on cynicism. On the contrary, I take it as my fire. I'll show you what we do.
And if someone is not convinced by the elements of well-being, focusing on people, making sure that there's all the resources aligned to that sort of, I call it a noble purpose, right? Because if you're growing an organization and you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 people, forget about your customers, forget about your profits, forget about you have a population of human beings that depend on the very decisions that you make.
Right.
And imagine what you can do only by making the right decisions, starting with them,
Yeah.
and them benefiting directly from it. Imagine that self-fulfillment and how it would be so noble if you just start from there, and then everything else will fall into its places, especially client satisfaction, production, cost of production, the value of the top line, income, and so everything. But if you only start with that and the well-being of them, starting with their health, physically, mentally, psychologically, and everything around them, starting from inside out.
Yes.
It just becomes so beautiful, isn't it?
It's beautiful. And I absolutely love where more and more people are going in terms of, I call our era where we were brought up the Gordon Gekko era of, Wall Street, masculine energy. You only make it if you are mean and a sales shark, and all. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be.
Exactly. Even the analogies is shark.
This culture of a shark, you have to be a shark to be a top leader.
True.
Is now has fallen to a large extent. We still have narcissists at the top, very largely, right? They make it. They are so good at reaching the top, and that's fine. But there are few, I guess, waves happening. Also, more and more people are embracing empathy. They're embracing this feminine energy, if you want, inside, being in touch with your humanity.
Yes.
The women is entering the workplace like never before. So women also bring this diversity. Yes, this diversity from a way of thinking about things, perspective.
Absolutely.
So I go back to what you're saying. It's so beautiful to take care of other people. It's just that it wasn't cool. And now it's becoming cooler. So you know what? You're actually cool if you take care of people.
True. And
you're not soft, as they say. Soft is the new cool.
Listen, I'll tell you what. There's a like a day and night difference in my world, at least. This is my personal belief, right? Between being kind and being soft.
Right.
I don't subscribe to soft. I don't subscribe to soft at all, because soft is someone who can be shaped by external factors and external influences, and that's not a good thing for the most part, at least not without my own consent, right? But kind is different. You can be a warrior, but kind warrior, right? But you can't be a farmer in a war if you're soft and then survive. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference in mindset.
There's a thin line between.
And I love what you said about feminine energy, because people equate feminine with female or women. No, that's not the case at all. You can have know, when I do my personality test, funny enough, and not
you certainly
many people
are in tune with your feminine.
I am more feminine, than masculine in my outwardly way of thinking and inside. And funny enough, my wife, when she did her own psychometrics and personality test, she was more masculine. So she's more competitive. She's more, kind of extroverted. I'm more compassionate, more, so we complete each other in that sense. And this is where people have to understand that feminine energy does not mean females as in women. It's like it's a spectrum.
It doesn't rob you from your masculinity.
From being a man or a woman. And you know what? If you're secure, you're secure. You don't have to kind of boast about or be afraid. But the point that I'm trying to make here, Nancy, and let's kind of touch on the last part of things. Now, two elements here. First, if let's say corporates do that, right? And people are
beautiful
doing that, because it takes two to tango, right? So there's a corporate, so the energy, the environment, the incentive system, the resource availability, all of that is driving people to actually do it. And then people have also the personal responsibility and accountability to be consistent and committed into elevating their own well-being and quality of life. So they have everything else. What do you think that will happen to the innovation output within organizations, in your opinion?
Beautiful question. I guess there's so much research and science. It's a big question, right, for me to just it's not objective.
No,
It's actually it's not subjective. It's actually like it should be backed by organizational psychology science,
Study,
right?
yeah.
And facts. And there's plenty of data that talks about how when you are in a place where you thrive, you have that safe space, healthy physical being, you feel you align with the values, you like the people you work with because they are well trained and empathetic, and all of this can be shaped. Nothing is impossible, right? It's just a matter of we are progressing as a species, we're elevating more and more, decade after decade, we're becoming better at our humanity, minus some obviously core exceptions taking place at the moment in our world. But on the macro level of things, definitely improving well-being increases our innovation, increases our ability to, it's like you just are given more space to be creative.
Yes.
Space and and power, tool. So if my body is, if I can't wake up in the morning, how am I to begin with? I'm gonna even think about something beyond the basic
mechanical.
The hierarchy, the Maslow of the pyramid of needs, right? The more
Survival.
the more you are elevated from a need perspective, the more you self-actualize. Now put it on a species level, put it on a macro, put it on an organization level, right? Multiply this and imagine the place we're in.
Yeah, I like that. So you're allowing your people to actually stop thinking about basic survival instincts, and automatically they will elevate into being creative and put that en masse. Then productivity and innovation,
and happiness. We're all trying to create utopia, right?
Because you'll have the feedback of fulfillment, right? Because we all yearn to be creative, not just mechanically do things over and over.
Yeah,
I like that.
So there is a huge power in what leaders of wealthier organizations can do. I go back to a very important, maybe final thought on what happened so far and what is awaiting us and what should happen.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened so far, to kill the argument, not because it can't happen. It just, it's like when they tell you let the coal take its course, right? Everything in life takes its course. We've started. We are progressing.
What hasn't happened?
The natural progression is you answered it, Osama, earlier. It has to become, first of all, you have to put KPIs.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. So the wellness of the organization.
First of all,
as a focus.
before putting KPIs, the culture has to shift from initiative mindset to long-term
strategic
core aspect of my business mindset, strategic aspect, that the wellness is like I hire for marketing, I bring strategists for my management strategy. It has to become that, okay?
Yes.
Versus, it's breast cancer month, let's run a talk and move on
it's
for
November.
The next year, right? So, and it's all great. I mean, don't get me wrong. We do that. We support for that too. But it's a piece of the puzzle. It
has to be with intent, right?
With intent and with... So the culture shift of understanding it, that it's a long-term thing. It's a core thing as my business. That's the number one shift that needs to start to happen. And it's, I guess... people are understanding that, okay, what we've done for the past years, like, because obviously I work with employers and I talk to them, and the feedback is always, please give us something better. Let's jump to your 2.0 you're proposing, right? Like, because
that's good feedback.
We're still spending money, but we're not seeing beyond the basics. So I would rather put a bit more money if you show me at least something. Okay, awesome. Now let me tell you how I show you something. If you can't measure day one, how can you measure the delta, the improvement?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to begin with a place,
analysis.
an assessment, and then you have to put a KPI on what you want to improve of this day one, where you want to reach in a year or two, and then I'll tell you what to do. Okay, and then the implementation comes. It's a bit like, I go back to example, maybe a McKinsey, so you brought him, or Aximind for your business, or any strategy. You tell them, I want to improve my EBITDA by 20%.
Yeah.
You put a KPI, right?
True.
I look at the organization and I say, okay, stress level because of managers' behavior is at 90%. I want in 2 years to have my company, I want to survey, or maybe in a year, right? You make it as stringent as you want, and then you invest as per the KPI. Okay. And then you funnel all the efforts on that KPI to be achieved instead of things being
initiatives,
bubbly and here and there. Exactly. So I'm telling you, exactly like any other business aspect, whether your financials, your marketing KPI, anything.
It's clear. I can
very,
think, I can
very
imagine
clear,
it strategically.
very engineer mind driven. Because engineering, math is the basic principle of life, right? So we can't run out of it, away from it. So and that's why I like to begin with why, and then I tell you the what. Okay, so the what is we put a KPI. I go back to the example of stress, and so we train everyone. I want in 10 months, or in, obviously this one is a bit of a more, people to change in that space, it takes a bit of effort, right? So maybe we put a year and a half a timeline on it. I want now only 50% of people saying they are not happy with their managers, down from 90. Or if I want to shape it more positively, I want
increase satisfaction.
80% of people walking into this door to have reported in a year and a half they are happy with their manager.
Satisfaction, happiness.
Or other aspects. But I like to keep it simple from a KPI perspective.
Yes.
Another example,
the simpler
more on the
measure,
physical.
the easier the kind of...
100%. And then another one is, let's assume we found in your company, maybe you have even 50 people, right? It doesn't have to be 100,000 people.
Oh, yes.
We found that you are the biggest struggle people have from a health risk perspective or well-being risk perspective is they are not sleeping.
Right. Yes.
This one is easier because it's not relational, it's personal, right? Although sleep psychology has a lot of subconscious behind it, why you're up, why you're late, why you don't want, whatever. But within a year, we want this people, a group saying, we want 80% of this group to be reporting back they're sleeping at least 7 hours per day.
Self-reporting?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you can obviously still track it with devices.
Yeah.
The more accurate the data, but in
the concept
general,
is the sleep quality.
In general, it is accepted in public health, generally around the world, even in governments. Self-reported data is always the most, at least so far in our times, right? So we're having more and more tools to track the quantified self, but people have no reason to lie, right? Because you're not.
At least if it's a bigger group of people.
Right. And obviously you can't put incentives or penalties to shape people reporting it back. So you have to be very careful not to penalize people if they said, oh, I'm sleeping 6 hours. No, we're doing it actually for you. So we're incentivizing you versus penalizing you. So you build that in a smart way.
The point is you measure it in whatever way.
And the second most important aspect, you funnel all efforts into that KPI. So if you tell me I have $200,000 per year to spend as a large organization, okay? Or I don't know, I can spend $10,000 for my people. This year, I'm a smaller one. Then we put all efforts into that KPI. And I would tell you, with those 10,000, what I can achieve. So if 10,000 will only make me go from 90% not happy with their manager to 80%, that's all I tell you I can do. But then guess what I did? I piloted something in your company that you're now willing to put more into it next year because you saw this delta, at least you saw it. That's why this vicious cycle of workplace wellness. What's happening today? You start with no KPIs. Number one. Number two, follow me on the cycle. You implement random initiatives because you don't have KPIs. And when you don't have KPIs, you don't channel it. These initiatives are not meeting people's needs.
Of course.
Because they're not well planned.
But it gets you some photos on LinkedIn and you can probably get few likes.
Because that's the culture today, that doing something, anything is nice and uploadable. So that's why I started that to begin to shift. First, it's the mindset of the leaders that now it has to be sustainable versus gimmicky. Okay? So agree. So number two, yes, it's happening. It's not working. Number three, the implementation is not what people need. It's not talking to people needs. Number three, of course, you're not going to achieve outcomes if I need to figure out my relationship with my partner or whatever, or my boss, and you're telling me to come watch a webinar on, I don't know, like something that doesn't even scratch the surface of my subconscious and insecurities and life problems, okay? Number four, of course, if you don't have outcomes, how do you go back to your financial team, the person who's willing to make, who is at the top making that decision to put resources, and convince them in a new year cycle that says, give me more to do something meaningful. Because you already did not show a delta to begin with.
Yes, there's no
like
feedback.
Any other business project you do, right? That's why in business we pilot. We
prototype,
We prototype, and then we measure some impact, and then we escalate
exactly. That's
and
why
scale.
The concept of MVP, right? You just have a minimum viable.
It can start big, it can start small. It doesn't matter, but you have to show something to get more funding. It's a bit like when you are, pre-seed, seed, The more you show outcomes, the more you get money.
True.
Right?
True.
It's the same concept from how you pull it. Number one, where you break the cycle, it ends with us. You start by putting a KPI. And you start by funneling all that cycle, KPI, and measure. The T0 has to be measured. You implement fully focused on what you're trying to achieve, what you accepted that this is going to be our T1 measure or KPI to expect. With that, you implement the right solutions, and all along you're doing it with an expert because you can't do it alone.
100%.
And then now you have something at hand.
You can build
the number
on.
3, the outcomes. You go back to now number to someone 1. Paying for it and saying, or obviously your decision maker as a company on the budget and all of this, the bottom line. And you say, that's what we achieved. Give me more. Next year, I double down. Either same KPI, improve it, more other factors, nutrition, whatever. It's a journey, right?
Yes.
It's if you want to revamp your life, it takes you at least a few years.
True.
Right? So you can't imagine to do it all in
True.
Like you said, if you want to do it for the LinkedIn, you can run 5 events at the same day. Thank you very much. That's it, done. And if you, by the way, keep doing it this way, every year, so what happens? You go back, no outcomes. Okay, Osama, I'll give you $20,000 next year. They build a calendar.
Yeah.
Every month we have mental health or whatever. Okay, we do an event. Cycle keeps going.
Yes.
So
people will lose faith.
Breaking that cycle.
So exactly, and the result is people at the top will lose faith because they think that there's no results, even if there's results, by the way, because it's not measured and monitored.
It's becoming like, why?
And you cannot correlate the results or kind of establish a causal effect between the results and the initiatives.
Right.
So that's very, very critical and instrumental. But also people themselves, they're not able to see, and therefore it becomes like the boy kind of cries wolf, right? Like, okay, now we're having a I don't know, like this wellness and this wellness, and we're like, oh God, okay, here's another waste of time.
It's
and people
becoming dreadable, Osama.
Yeah.
People, when they see now, I mean, people became very smart and attuned at detecting if a program is real
they can see through
or
it.
it's a gimmick.
Yes.
Okay? And the more you do the gimmick, the more it's a bit like the wolf, story. That, okay, at the end, I don't believe you anymore. I think you just said it, right?
Yes,
you said
yes,
that?
yes.
Okay. So when you are now doing it right, you got masked by the noise of your wrong.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. And that's the problem.
But it's fine because, again, to build the good, again, takes a few communication.
Yes.
Well-crafted communications.
Meaningful, truthful.
Yes, and a consistent, persistent trend of people sensing that you're actually now doing it right.
Yeah.
And that takes...
There's authenticity,
yes,
right?
Yes, there is authenticity that takes well-designed content and communication, well-chosen implementation solutions, well-chosen partners. And that's why also this is where we bring our solution of behavior change. So, and of course you partner sometimes with others. You don't have... wellness is an ecosystem, so you can just have everything. But there are some must-haves that you can't bypass. So I go back to the idea, I can give you a discount on gym, but if I haven't shaped your mindset with knowledge about it, resources mean nothing. A powerful behavior-changing programs has 4 core pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Learning intensive knowledge with the right simplified elements of it, coupled with resources, coupled with nudging, because I can tell you, Osama, one time, and I leave you alone, and you might not do it.
Yeah.
So it needs to... it's a bit like your parent when they tell you, go remove your thing and go shower, right?
Yeah.
So they say it 5 times maybe before you... We know in marketing, it's a known kind of figure. You need 7 reminders to even notice an email is sending you an event upcoming.
Yeah.
Okay, so the nudging aspect, there's an amazing book I love, always recommend, called Nudge, Global Knowledge leveraged by the NHS, by previously the Obama administration, and in public health. So Nudge, you can use it not just in public health, but in anything like credit cards.
Yes.
Anything you design in business leverages smart nudging. And the 4th environment is the 4th pillar is environment. Okay,
yes.
So I can give you all of this in nutrition, for example. Let's talk about nutrition. I shifted your mindset. You are now fully empowered. Oh my God, Nancy, I'm ready to change it. Like, I now finally understand why you're telling me eat natural food, because my body and only can process natural based on my genes. Okay, you explained that to me perfectly. You made me understand the hormonal play at it. You made me understand what emotional eating is. You went through all these programs. We gave you, for example, discounts to healthy food and whatnot. Okay, so resources. And then you walk every day into an environment that has vending machines full of chocolate instead of a salad counter that looks beautiful.
Or a workshop that outside you have all sorts of pastries and croissants.
Or you walk yourself every day into a supermarket with aisles full of unhealthy food.
Yes.
Processed food.
Yes.
Versus, going into an organic shop, or it's all about your choices as well. So knowing maybe the employer cannot always shape your environment, right? So, but also like how you design your house, how you design your fridge to see the things that are good for you, how you design your environment. For example, if we're talking about different topic, to be surrounded by good people.
Yes.
Okay. People that elevate you versus destroy you.
Yes.
So these 4 pillars are what is the core of a behavior changing program. And this is now we're talking implementation, right? Yeah. But it's important because sometimes people, they're not seeing it. They don't know this. So then say, okay, all of this strategy is great, but we brought this vendor and people are not adopting. maybe in a different episode, I tell you why people don't adopt.
Can you
It's like an
summarize?
hour. Yes. Few factors. At the core of it is that behavior change is psychological first. And when it comes to changing behavior, a smart communication strategy that doesn't make me feel like paternalistic somehow.
Right.
It has to feel to me. I still see, for example, the mistakes I see in crafting content to launch something, a program, assuming now you did the strategy, right? We started in execution now, is cringeworthy. I've seen from the design aspect that is not customer centric, employers sending an attachment flyer, please see this as our new solution. Okay, nobody opens this. Emails designed long, boring, unbolded, ill-designed. Nobody wants to read them. Sent by a person I don't see as a key opinion leader to me in the company.
True.
Written in a way where it's said inside of the email that in order to save money and improve our cost on healthcare, we're offering you this wellness solution. You know what I do with this, right? Okay, so
I laugh because it's so funny.
It's so real, right? It's like comedy level.
It's comedy, but it's so sad that it's happening.
It's happening. So all of these funnel into one important aspect is the consumer psychology, the person psychology. To help me change my behavior, I need to feel it's authentic. I need it to feel about me first, not about you. Okay, that's when I begin to listen. And also we know from user psychology that reading long emails, who send them, like all of this aspect of, that's why I always say public health has a big marketing and psychology and behavioral psychology in it. Okay, so this first one. And then we jump to product design. So once you convince me that I need to jump on this, take it, adopt it, the way you implement it to begin with,
the program itself,
then the program itself. The program itself has to be as appealing as an Apple level of consumer centricity.
Right.
To begin
so it's very
with,
short learning curve.
Behavior change is painful.
True.
You're asking me to now learn,
watch this webinar and improve and answer this survey afterwards.
Oh my God, the dopamine you're asking me to, the effort you're asking me to exert, which my brain doesn't like. From an evolutionary perspective, you are designed to consume less energy so that you keep it for survival. So if I don't see the dopamine, the carrot at the end of the tunnel, and if it's painful along the way,
if the friction is too high,
exactly. So it's like designing any other product.
Yes.
That you put so much energy and effort on. Okay. Unfortunately, historically, people who design in health, wellness, are not the most tech-savvy, consumer-happy designers. On the contrary, you see solutions that are, and this is where I jump to the second aspect of product. They are technologists, but they don't have the health know-how. Okay? So you are appealing to me from a tech perspective, but I'm not seeing substance because it's not speaking to my health or mental health needs, right? So also, by the way, at MHW, we work with solutions to advise them how to design. Yes, because it's a whole ecosystem. If I work with the employer only, and then a digital health platform.
So health tech or
and
biotech.
We also design, right? We have our own solution. But from an advisory perspective, scaling, supporting other people, yes, it has to speak to the consumer and it also has to speak in health. So most of the times what I get, what I enjoy from an advisory perspective is working with the, we get highly funded startups. They have all the resources, but they don't have the well-being know-how. So that's another important element. And also the communicative know-how, how you say it, how it feels very, conversational.
The vehicle, right? Transfer
yes,
to the
the product, exactly. And then people have to feel the ultimate motivator. Yes, there is always good value in creating an external carrot.
Yeah.
You see like a lot of like gamification and
yeah.
that's
the reward
core.
system.
Yes, that's core. But the
But
most
it's not as strong.
sustainable is
The
when
intrinsic.
you create, and the intrinsic comes from conviction, but then how you positively the loop
Reinforce it,
or reinforce it is when you show outcomes for the person who consumes the product. Because you and I
so the
can
gratification is pulled forward and they can see
external motivation only is there to kind of build the habit until you see the value. But if those
I like that.
21 days or whatever they call them, or those carrots, keep playing, but you still at some point feel what's in it for me beyond that, your effort no longer, your brain, I go back to your brain, it doesn't want to put that effort, because now this carrot that started to begin with appealing is now no longer appealing.
Yes.
You came here to begin with for a real transformation.
True, not for the carrot itself.
Yeah, I mean, and the carrot fades away with time. If it's like, okay, you're giving me money or whatever, right? But so it's a combination of both. And this is where I go back to its behavioral economics here, and like how much you give people also incentive and all of this. And also there's an aspect in it, I guess, often overlooked, is how much do I trust this provider? How much do I feel I connect to them? Because it's a bit more on the softer long-term side than a doctor, although you definitely have to trust your doctor or you don't go to them. But when you go to the doctor, it's a pain you're killing.
Yeah.
Wellness is a vitamin.
Agreed.
I mean,
the trust element is higher because the result is farther.
Yeah. It has to be more of a the
like trusting
urgency,
your trainer, right? Your personal trainer.
The urgency in wellness is not as high in illness.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're often reactive. So hopefully you don't come there after you're sick, but usually it's the case. You're suffering, you feel you're sitting a lot, your back pain, you are on the bigger side, you want to lose weight. Like there is something going on in you that you are not on track. So you're trying to. And so, but as much as reactive as it is, it's not also being in pain.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, a medication or a doctor. So
it's not a sickness.
It's not necessarily directly, although it's boiling there, right? That's why you're taking action. You know, something is gonna crack or already cracked, and you want to avoid a future crack.
True.
But the psychology behind it is a bit more about building with this person. So if you're listening to me today, telling you about how you change your lifestyle, you have to believe that I, to begin with, have learned how to change mine. Right? It's a bit different than when the cardiologist tells you take this pill, but he smokes or she smokes. Because, okay, he can smoke, but give me the pill, please.
True.
But behavior change is more it's a trust element even beyond that. I don't know, it's an affinity. Maybe I don't want to call it trust, because also your doctor has a lot of, you have to have trust, to give them your health. But it's an affinity element. So, I mean, I told you it's another episode.
No, but I like
to summarize a lot of aspects, mostly psychological and merit-based, go into building an impactful solution. Merit that so far has not been regulated. And so you see a lot of noise, unlike a doctor. Self-proclaimed. Unlike a doctor who goes today, gets
accredited.
Thank you. So that's the same bubble. I go back to your question, why not yet? Because it's a matter of time.
And people probably have engaged with few other self-proclaimed experts, and obviously because they're not true experts, they had bad taste.
Yes,
they
lost
became
trust. Yes.
Exactly, and that goes for everything that is not regulated
and new.
It should. I mean, in my view, it shouldn't be regulated. Not everything has to be regulated, and the onus, the responsibility goes into those corporate leaders to actually have what it takes to evaluate that expert for who they are. And if they know and they get to that point, then like you said, this is a joy to work with. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do.
I love what you're saying, and I think I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it. I do, however, because wellness is a science at the end of the day, and we're increasing our knowledge in it, and it leverages many sciences under it, from the science of nutrition to neuroscience to marketing to behavior to. There, I do trust there must be a collective, either local, global, whatever bodies we build for kind of guidelines to return back to.
Yes.
Okay. The idea of guidelines is important to shape up as we move forward, because
I'm sure they exist, don't they?
There are.
It's
but
like,
you need to work with an expert, or some governments have put them. So we are also in an early stage.
My point is, I mean, it's like coaching, right? Like executive coaching or life coaching. You can't really regulate it as much as you regulate, let's say, a physician who is a doctor, trying to... Simply because, I mean, you will slow down rather than, make a positive impact. However, for example, if I want to be a executive coach, I can claim to be a coach. Fine, I can put it on my LinkedIn. No one will ask me, why did you put it on LinkedIn? I can open an office and claim to be a coach. People will come to me, fine. Right. But also, I can be accredited coach from, let's say, an international body, which is... Now, this accreditation gives me the kind of trust that people want to see in dealing with me. Therefore, the onus does not now lie on the government or some sort of a central body to regulate, but on the people to validate the expertise of that person through these sort of guidelines, to your point.
Yes. I mean, guidelines usually are sort of paternalistic. So it's not bottom up. When I think of guidelines, it's kind of, you partner with the government to put them. You put maybe a health consortium where, in a university, a consultant, etc., put together something. It has to have definitely, like you said, some credibility behind it. But I also, back to what you're saying, because wellness is a lot of things. This still requires the person to test and learn, despite the guidelines minimize the charlatan in the field. Like it would force people to fit into something that works. But even that, I guess you on an individual level, not provider level, you gotta test and learn, because wellness is very personalized. You might listen to, something, or they tell you eat something and then it doesn't work for you, right? So that's why now we're heading incrementally into personalized health and wellness. And based on that, for example, your DNA, your etc., you now craft more personal solutions. And that's another aspect of regulation also, right?
Yes.
So I do believe in at the end of the day, it's the new science of health. It's the new healthcare.
Yes, which is also a branch of longevity.
Yes, longevity is a branch of
the wellness.
The new healthcare, which is expanding your health span, living longer in a healthier way.
I like the paradox of dying young at a very old age.
Yes, exactly. So I do believe it has to start shaping up more into a guideline regulation, but it will probably look different than the traditional medicine field, because it has a lot of it's different. In wellness, the outcome is not you go in sick, you go out healed within 2 weeks. It's not take this antibiotic, heal. In wellness is vitality is probably the ultimate metric, like the vitality and feeling physically and mentally good. I guess what goes in it is a lot of aspects: physical health, mental health, etc., and it takes time. So Yeah, it's work in progress, I guess, but it should happen.
It should happen.
Yeah.
Nancy, this has been truly insightful. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time.
Osama. Thank you for having me. Same for me. And I love, I guess, also the blend between the innovation aspect and the management and, business aspect that you bring, and how, we intertwine it with the philosophically and tactically with the idea of wellness.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, and keep up the great work with Aximite.